I'm Ryan, and this is the Sound Project. So today we're going to be talking with our newest staff member. So Sawyer, you started with us like 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, Thanksgiving started and here I was.
Yeah, awesome. So as part of like the podcast, like we've interviewed everyone on the team. And so now that you're here, like we wanted to do the same with you. So I don't know if I already said it, but so your name's Sawyer.
Yes.
And you're going to be one of our new drafting technicians. So you'll be working really closely with Tracy.
Yeah.
But yeah, go ahead, and we always just start with your background as far as like what did you do growing up, what got you here, and we go from there.
Yeah, I'm from Indianapolis originally, so let's go Pacers. Although this year's been a little rough, we don't talk about that. But no, I'm from Indianapolis, and I my undergraduate degree is from IUPUI.
Cool.
So I am a former Jaguar, and I enjoyed my time there. I studied nonprofit management and really wanted to kind of get into making a difference in the world.
Cool.
And I worked for a little while at IU Alumni Association, but kind of realized the nonprofit world always tends to gear towards somebody with profit. You always got to go to money.
Sure.
And if you really want to make a difference, you got to kind of have a little bit more of a foundation. And I found myself not really feeling satisfied.
Sure.
I started looking at other professions, and had kind of one of those rare aha moments. I was sitting on a riverside, and it just kind of clicked. I was like, wait, somebody designed all this. There's a creator's hand in all of this, and I really want to be a part of that. I want to be somebody that gets to, help envision something and create something. I'm somebody that really enjoys working with my hands.
Sure.
And although it seems like drafting stuff, you usually are working with a pencil or, a computer, there's something about the built environment that really is a draw to me.
Cool.
So I realized that if I want to do anything, I got to work from the ground up. So I started literally pulling weeds and mowing lawns in northern Illinois because I was able to get a job up there. The pandemic began, and it kind of put me in a weird spot, as it did everybody. And I worked my way up and got into school, and ended up getting a master's in urban design.
Okay.
And for the past 4 years, I've been working for a design build firm out of Chicago, doing mostly draft work, which 3D models and SketchUp, AutoCAD, that kind of fun stuff.
Nice.
It was fun. It had its own challenges, but it was really great. And I was applying after I got out of Ball State, and I was applying to different positions. And this opportunity, it wasn't exactly what I'd been studying for, but I walked into the office and I really liked the people. And I learned very quickly in life that you spend 40 hours a week with people, not working on a job. You spend 40 hours a week with people. So if you're not enjoying the people that you're working with, you're going to have some issues down the road.
Yeah.
So I really liked that. And when I was younger, I really thought music was going to be somewhere where I ended up. And it just, as life progresses, it seems passions kind of fade to the side, and I end up following more curiosities. And so my music passion kind of got pushed to the side. And then when Gavin gave me this opportunity, I was like, wait a second. I looked at all the instruments behind me. I was like, I can maybe start figuring this out again and learn from some people that have some really incredible experience in this field.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
It's really cool just like already in how you're talking about how like your world of, like the urban design and things like that, and like the drafting is now merging back with your original passion of music. Like that's really cool.
Yeah, it's really kind of it was one of those beautiful kind of full circle moments where I was like, oh, wow, maybe this all does kind of line up and I can figure it out. I really believe that on any form of design, I was told a long time ago, if you want to plan a city, you got to be able to lay out a garden bed. And it's the same thing with the built environment coming inside. If you want to be able to build a full cathedral, you got to understand how the sound waves move and how everything operates inside it.
Yeah.
If you really want to evoke that emotion and that feeling when somebody walks into the space. And so getting to learn from people like Tracy and Gavin, who've been doing this for a while and have had their hand in some really beautiful environments, I'm just ecstatic to be a sponge.
Yeah, no, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And that's kind of been the case like for all of us. Like even though I had like a background in audio, like doing the acoustical side of things is a totally different like realm. So it's always fun just to learn something new on that side.
Yeah, absolutely.
So where you talked about like doing the urban development and like I know and like you have a plant over by your desk.
Yeah.
So like and I know like you've talked about like gardening and things like that. Are you like still pretty involved in that?
As much as I can be. Gardening is not only like something that I actually like really believe in just as a physical activity,
Yeah.
but it's really good for your mental health. And multiple science and studies have come out and said, if working with your hands in the dirt and putting something in the ground and taking the time with it, even pulling weeds, there's different things that get released. There's different smells that you smell and things like this.
Oh, cool.
And so it's really fascinating. I'm reading the book right now or listening to it through audio, Braiding Sweetgrass.
Okay.
And it's all about understanding the plant world and gratitude, and how not only should we shouldn't take more than what we need,
Sure.
basically. And so when it comes to gardening and stuff like that, for me, it's really just a place of solace.
That's
And so
awesome.
I brought a couple plants in, and because they're having some issues at home, but I'm hopeful that the sunlight here will make them do a little better.
Yeah,
So,
that's so cool.
yeah.
That's something that like my wife and I have always talked about, like wanting to do a garden of some kind. And then like I go to my older brother's place, and like his whole backyard for the longest time was just like a garden where it's like all of these like vegetables, like he had chickens. So like all the eggs he would get from that. And I'm like, that's so cool. But it also takes so much work.
It takes a lot of work. It does. And, sometimes you don't get the immediate results that you want sometimes. But no, I think that there's a lot to be taken from that and applied into life and applied into the workplace, as you can't, if you want something of quality, it's going to take a little while.
Yeah.
And sometimes you might have a plan for something, but, things might adjust it outside of your control.
Sure.
And there's a lot that can be taken from that and applied in the real world.
That's really cool. The going back a little bit,
Yeah.
so one of the first things that you talked about was like go Pacers. So,
Oh, yeah.
And I know it was shortly after you started, like we had talked about how our high school alma maters ended up playing each other.
Yeah.
But like, so are you still involved in sports? What sports did you do
Yeah,
previously?
basketball. If you're in Indiana, there's really only one sport is basketball,
Yeah.
and then there's racing, but that's a religion, so let's get that understood. And an open wheel racing, not NASCAR.
Yeah. It's very true.
But no, I love my Pacers as much as I can. I try to go there. I do play basketball still weekly
Nice.
with some friends whenever I can, and get my butt beat as often as I can
Yeah.
too. But no, I played a couple different sports. I did tennis, cross country, but really everything was always like, how are we getting ready for basketball?
Yeah.
And I was a cheerleader too. I did
Oh, that's awesome.
cheerleading, and I was the mascot. I really just kind of wanted to say, man, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it,
Yeah.
So, and at some point you realize, oh, well, you can go see all the games if you're the mascot. So
Yeah, that's so cool. I didn't we had talked about like you doing basketball, but I didn't
Yeah.
know about like the cheerleading side of it
Yeah.
or being a mascot. That's so cool.
Yeah, it really, it was a great opportunity. I got to meet a lot of different people, and it really kind of made me appreciate a different side of sports.
That's so cool. And so along with that, like you had also mentioned like an original passion being music.
Yeah.
So what's your upbringing with music? Are you still involved? Tell us a little bit about that.
My grandmother, when I was a kid, both my grandfathers are ministers, and so growing up in the church was something that it just was. But she sat down and taught me how to play once, the piano, but with shape notes.
Okay.
Now, shape notes, if anybody's unfamiliar with that, or if you are familiar, wonderful. But shape notes is more of a Southern gospel style
Okay.
of music. So I can't read music, I'll be honest. All I
Sure.
can read is really just shape notes. But basically how it works is where it is on the score, opposed to having just the little dots or the flags or whatever. You got the actual shapes, triangle, circle, teardrop, square, and wherever they are, my grandmother then would draw them on the keys. So my guess is it comes from people that maybe weren't going to normal music education and thought, okay, well, we can draw all these shapes and match them. She learned it from her mother in Kentucky, and it's something that I rarely run into now. I only have 2 songbooks left with that type of sheet music in it.
Sure.
So it's very nostalgic for me to go back and look at that. And so I keep those, and I play, the keyboard and stuff like that, or at least for myself. I don't play for, it's
Sure.
not very good. And then I picked up the ukulele, a couple, I got some Navajo flutes that I really love. I've been
Okay.
playing those some, but pretty much just, it's music for me. At one point I thought, oh, I'm going to do this. I'm going to perform and do all this.
Yeah.
Then I realized it's something that was a gift that my grandmother gave for me. And it was something that how I experience it and play it was just something kind of more private in a way. Because every
Sure.
time I would kind of go out and try to do it, it seemed like it took something from it, or I was trying to perform it for somebody else. But when I would sit and just practice the piano piece or the, the ukulele piece, even though it's kind of more fun and silly.
Yeah.
It felt like I was connected to what I was gifted years ago, if that makes sense.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
It's so I can like kind of relate to that on like the reason that like I started playing guitar was because of my older brother and my uncle. And so it was like, my uncle bought me my first guitar. Like my older brother, seeing him always play was the reason that I wanted to play guitar.
Yeah.
And so it's just so cool how like those like gifts, like, and how you think of it being passed down like generation to generation. It's just a really cool thing.
It's another language, right? Like it's another way of, we talk about cells having memory and water having memory, all these things.
Yeah.
Music has memory too, right? And it's something that one generation can, although there might be a lot of differences, we can sing the same notes and there's the same emotion that comes from it. That's really beautiful that you were able to have that too with your family.
Yeah.
And do you play with your brother?
We have never done anything together. It's more so just like, I mean, we've jammed together and things like that, but like he lives in Kentucky, I live here. So it's just been one of those that we've never done a project together.
Yeah.
But I mean, we still love, like, we're always talking music. Like if we're talking, it's usually at some point in the conversation, music's coming up or something like that.
That's wonderful.
It's definitely the thing. So I have two brothers. So it's one of those things that's like, music is the thing that definitely ropes all of us together. So because we all do different things, professionally. And so being able to talk about like just what kind of things are we doing music wise, or like what kind of recording techniques, things like that. So yeah,
that's wonderful.
The I can't remember who said it, but it's one of those things where it's like the perspective that you have on it is kind of similar, where it's like music is just like the universal language. Like it allows you to be able to connect with people in a completely different way, even if you have no idea who they are or anything like that.
Yeah. Well, just like that golden record they sent to space, right? They put songs on it, right?
Yeah.
I can't remember the name of the musician, but his whole legacy is crazy. He dies by himself in Swaller, but his song is traveling on a golden record in space. And it's this old blues singer, and there's something about that, right? That his music and the way that he communicated in the world, despite all of the barriers that he faced in his life, is one of the first things that is going to potentially be introduced to another species, like another
cool
planet. Like that's crazy. So the music can tie all of that together.
Yeah.
Despite everything that we see in this world, I mean, it's a gift.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So like, what are some of your other hobbies? Like we've talked about, the gardening, music, things like that. Like what else do you enjoy doing outside work?
I really enjoyed over the past couple of years getting into woodworking. I've done mostly, I did a chess set and a couple tables with my grandfather, and that was something that was really just wonderful. Again, he always would tell me that, the piece of wood is going to tell you what it wants. You don't get to dictate that. And as much as you come in with a mindset of, okay, I'm going to make this bowl or this jar or whatever.
Yeah.
It's another learning opportunity of, okay, I've got to accept what is and not impose myself on it.
Sure.
And so I've really enjoyed woodworking. Not very good at it, but I do urban sketching. That's really just kind of to keep me aware of things and kind of keep my skills on. And then
what is that? Like urban sketching?
Yeah. It's a fancy thing for just sketching outside, I think. I don't know. Like if you Google, there's like you Google it, you'll find videos and stuff of urban sketching, out, landscape sketching. You're just sketching like the cityscapes and stuff like that, and understanding kind of, not only what's above grade, but what's below grade. For me, it's always, I end up like, how are the plants integrating in the city?
Yeah.
And there's something about sitting and just taking time to draw, or in a space. It seems that, today's environment want to rush through and everything's the faster it is, the better it is.
Yeah.
But if you sit in a space for 30 minutes and just force yourself to draw a tree, there's a lot that you end up learning, and it kind of mellows my mind. So I really enjoy doing that. Again, not very good at it, but it's not for anybody else, it's for me. So.
Right. That's so cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
And then you had also talked about, you're doing like audiobooks. So like, do you do audiobooks over like just reading like physical books, or like what's your preference there?
Yeah. When I'm in the car or driving, or, in a workplace, usually an audiobook helps.
Nice.
But sometimes I want to delve into that. So I do have some hard copies that I keep around.
Cool.
It seems that I move through a bunch of different books. I have like 3 or 4 that I'm reading at a time.
Okay.
I think it's because I kind of get through a couple chapters. All right, now it's time to move something else. I understand what's going on here. But I'm a little old school in that I still get a newspaper delivered to my house.
Okay.
Which I get made fun of sometimes for it, but I
No,
like it.
that's super
I
cool.
like it. I can feel it. I can smell it. And I'm supporting the local reporters here. So
Yeah.
yeah,
That's so cool. I'm really jealous of the fact that you can read multiple books at one time because so my wife does that as well. And I'm like, man, I can barely focus on one book. Like, and I enjoy reading. It's just one of those, like, I'm not a fast reader and I have to be like very attentive to be able to like comprehend whatever I'm reading.
Yeah.
And so like when my wife's, reading multiple books, or you talk about being able to read 3 or 4 books at a time, it's just like, man, like I would get everything so confused. Like, so that's so cool that you're able to do that.
Do you do any audiobooks or anything, right?
I do. So I've gotten into the audiobook side of things, mainly just for like driving or like if I'm working and just need some background noise, like being able to like listen to whatever book I'm reading. So I have gotten into that. But I would say I'm like new to that side of things too.
Yeah.
So what kind of things like are you generally reading? Like you had talked about the the gardening book.
Braiding Sweetgrass. I can't remember the author's name right now, but she's also the person that reads it. And I think whenever that happens, you really understand the intent of the author. But that one's a really good one. If anybody's interested in plants or anything like that, it's a really kind of it's like easing into a hot tub or something. It just kind of settles you into understanding this environment. And the author is just incredible. So I'm reading that one. Reading The Conquest of Mexico. That one's taken a long time. It's oh my gosh, it's so much to get through. But the reason why I started reading that one was because it was recommended in another city planning book because it talks about Mexico City before it was in Tenochtitlan. And about Montezuma and about all of these things. And it is very one-sided, obviously, coming from the Spanish.
Sure.
But it really was fascinating. It has been fascinating to understand how that city worked and how Montezuma approached these invaders and all these things. There's just a lot more politics there than I knew previously.
Sure.
So I'm reading those two. And then there's one by Kevin Lynch I'm reading that's it's about the image of the city. That's a boring read. I'll say it. I don't like it. I read it when I'm at a coffee shop. I'm like, dang it, I got to get through this. And that one's. I think it could have been done in 2 pages.
Sure.
I'm trying to think. There's a garden book that I'm reading too. It's the 100 Gardens, and that one's just kind of a passive one.
Okay.
It's mostly for the pictures.
That's
I
fair.
like the pictures in that one, and it's good to kind of visually see because we're visual people.
Sure. No, that's super cool.
Yeah, it keeps me entertained and keeps my mind going.
Yeah, that's fair. Are you the fact that you do audiobooks sometimes too, like are you a podcast person?
Oh yeah, I love podcasts. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
What where are your go-to
This
podcasts?
one, obviously.
Yes.
No, I really love I'm a nut for history. I love there's so much there's so much interesting stuff in the nonfiction world that just is crazy and it sounds made up half the time. Yeah. And I really love diving into that. So Throughline is one from NPR. Okay. And they'll take like one piece of history or a fact or something and they go back as far as they can and basically walk you through the whole history of that one.
Cool.
And then Mythology. There's a mythology podcast. It's just called Mythology. And I love that. That's so good. You get to learn a little bit of history, but then kind of these incredible myths from, everything from, First Nations culture all the way to African cultures. Then you got the Greek and the Roman, and then you get the wonderful, kind of Scandinavian, and it's great to understand when listening to that one, just the different perspectives of the world. And sometimes all of these are trying to approach the same problems, and they just have different languages to get there. And it's a nice kind of reminder. Oh, okay, there's different ways to get to one spot.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
that was something that. So don't care if I get made fun of for this, but my wife and I, like when we were like in middle school, read like the Percy Jackson series.
Oh yes, yeah,
and so like now that the series is like coming out and everything, and like the first season already came out, but when the first season came out, we started rereading like. Even though we're adults now, rereading a middle school book, but and it's like, man, it was so cool. Like there was so much like so many things that we just completely missed like as middle schoolers just
Yeah.
because we were younger that we catch as adults where it's like, whoa, like the mythology, like the Greek and Roman mythology in those books is actually really, really cool.
There's a lot that, and so you've watched the Disney?
Yeah,
Well,
yep, watch the series.
I've only seen one or two. This really good. I was
It's
like,
awesome.
my
It's
gosh,
so
this is
good.
kind of fun. Like,
Yes.
yeah, and I like that. Yeah, how they thread the mythology through that.
I was so
good.
worried with that. Like when I saw that the author, it's Rick, or I can't remember how to pronounce his last name, but when I saw that he was like producing the series, I was like, all right, cool. Like hopefully it'll be good. But I was so nervous going into it because I love those books growing up. And it's like, man, are they going to like completely destroy these like books that I love and cherish, like trying to do a series? And it's like, nope, the series was great.
That's great. And how wonderful that you two get to enjoy that together, right? Like you get the nostalgia of it, and then you kind of get the, oh, wait, there was a little bit more to unpack there as adults, right?
Yeah,
And,
exactly.
yeah.
And that's been one of those things where it's been like really cool, at least for us to like be able to like, we kind of have our own little mini book club where it's just like, all right, we're reading the same thing and then we get to talk about it and like figure out what we missed. But you bringing up the Greek and Roman mythology and like how there can be different ways to take that in. It's just like, man, like what would be like a mid-grade book, basically. It's kind of cool that even those are ways to get people to understand like Greek and Roman mythology and things.
It's a fun way to get exposed to a new topic. And yeah, I haven't read that book, but I watched one or two of the things because I was told that, hey, you know, you might be interested. I was like, man, this is kind of, I thought it was just for kids, like you said, but no, it was really, there's more nuance than I expected.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where it's like Pixar movies where it's like, yeah, right, it's for kids, but really, like, there's things in there that adults are gonna catch.
Pixar movies are just to make you feel bad at the beginning. I swear, every single one. You know? If you're not crying the first 5 minutes, just leave. Like, you don't get it. Like,
that is fair.
Do you have a favorite Pixar?
Ooh, favorite Pixar movie. I would almost go classic and go like Bug's Life.
Ooh, okay, yeah.
Might have to make that one of our questions now. Yeah, what about you?
Oh man, I shouldn't have asked without the answer. My favorite, a Bug's. So you say a Bug's Life, and that I kind of want to go classic too, and I almost want to say Toy Story because that's how I feel like we got exposed to the whole world of the first
those were the
Toy
two
Story.
I was between was like Bug's Life and like the OG like Toy Story like 1 and 2, 3. I'm kind of like okay, but anything after that I'm like what's going on here?
No, that's a really Toy Story 1. I think that might be it. I love Up, but it breaks my heart every single time, and you can't help but like see yourself in that gentleman's life. Yeah, and it just like man. But then I love Kevin the Bird and, you know, all the rest of it. So
Russell.
So many good characters there. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, so now that you bring that up, like, are you like pretty into movies and things like that also?
I do like movies. Yeah. Nice. I do like good movies. Yeah.
What, like, do you have a specific genre that you like stick within?
You know, it's funny. Last night I was thinking, if they ask me about movies, where am I going to go with this?
Yeah.
Because you kind of, I love old movies, old black and white movies. I'm working through Humphrey Bogart's canon right now. I'm trying to get through all of that. There's a lot there that I missed, and I feel like you get kind of the 2 or 3 of his big ones, Casablanca and things like that. But he has a lot of movies. Okay. I love the James Bond. All of those are classic. And yeah, I'd say that those are some of the ones that are like Indiana Jones. I mean,
classic.
It's that's one I can watch all the time. Really the first and the third are the best.
That's
Temple
fair.
of Doom, the 4th one, and I don't know about the 5th. I didn't even get through it, but the first and the third I really enjoy.
I'm with you on that one. So one other thing too that so here at Haverstick Designs we've kind of become like we have a lot of puppies now. Like my wife and I have 2, Gavin has 1, Alex has 1, maybe 2, like Tracy just got a puppy, and now you also have a puppy.
Did I see you have a corgi though?
Yeah, yep. I have 2 corgis. Yep. So my wife and I we got a puppy that was planned. We named her Cece. She's a tricolored corgi, and she's like a 1.5 years now. Okay. But then we kind of became friends with the breeder, and so when they decided to retire Cece's mom, they were like, hey, how do you guys feel about being her retirement home? And we're like, how do we say no to this? So now we have Cece, who's a 1.5 years, and then we also have her mom Margie, who just turned 4.
That's
So yep,
wonderful.
so it's great. They're super hyper. They're awesome. But
Multi-generational household there.
yes, we are a multi-generational household. But go ahead and tell us about your puppy.
Oh
though.
yeah, we got one Dalmatian puppy. His name is Burnham Buckingham.
Okay.
Burnham after the city planner for Chicago, and Buckingham after the Buckingham Fountain in Chicago. I lived there for a little while, so you
Yeah.
gotta appreciate that.
That's
But
super cool.
he is a puddle of spots. He is all energy. If you've been around Dalmatian puppies before, they're a lot of fun. They're a lot of energy, but they like to nip because they were brought up. Their whole breed, for years was following behind horse carriages or going along. So they would nip at the horses.
Sure.
And so it's teaching Burnham, okay, that we don't need to nip all the time, buddy. But he's a good boy, and he learned lay down yesterday. So very proud of that.
That's awesome.
Very proud of that. Yeah.
Nice. How old is he?
Ooh, he's 12 weeks now, so he's all puppy. I think I'll sleep maybe about 2 hours in total, and then we wake up, then maybe another 2 hours, and then we wake up. It's been like that for a month now.
Yeah, I was gonna say, when we were lucky with Margie where it's like, she was already trained when we had her, and like she had been shown in a couple of shows as well. So it's like we got real lucky with Margie. Cece, on the other hand, is like, we knew what we were getting into with a puppy, but man, that girl is just like chaotic sometimes.
Really?
So we're like,
Has Margie helped mellow Cece out?
So that's what we were hoping for, and we've actually kind of found that it's been the other way around, where Cece's teaching Margie all the bad things. So it's all right, we're working on it, but that's so cool though. So all of that being said, one of the things that my wife said when like we started this, so our first interview was with Gavin, and she was like, by the end of the interview, I want to know these things. So now we just kind of do a rapid fire question thing, and here we go.
Okay,
so
let me get squared up.
Yep.
Okay, I'm ready.
Coke or Pepsi?
Ooh, Coke.
All right, good. See, there's only like one person that said it, and well, he doesn't work here and won't work here, but our video guy Luke. Next one, favorite Mario Kart character?
Ooh, the one I've been using lately, Peach.
Solid.
Yeah.
Someone, I can't remember who else was Peach, but solid choice.
Yeah.
I know there have been some things online that's like, if you get the right combination with Peach, like she's supposedly one of the fastest ones out there.
I'm not going to give it away, but some research has suggested that Peach with the right combo is one of the fastest. So,
all right. Fair enough. We already kind of touched on this a little bit, but we generally are like music or podcast on a road trip.
Road trip? Oh, gosh. Road trip, I think podcast by the end of it. Music the first hour, and then podcast. Yeah.
Solid. And then what was one of the... Oh, and then like a guilty pleasure.
Probably the TV show Naked and Afraid. I think that is... You get to learn a lot about survival, but it's silly. Come on, they're running around naked. And they chose to do that. Like, come on, they're upset about thorns. Like, you're naked.
Yeah, that's fair. And then the last one that came on a little bit later was if a grizzly bear and a hippo fought. And I know we kind of talked about this a little bit before, and it sounded like you maybe changed your answer. But what's your answer now?
Yeah, so originally when I was posed this question, I was pretty confident in where I was. And I went home and had a further discussion and was talked down from my opinion and made to realize that hippos actually would probably win in a fight versus grizzlies. And between their speed and their ability to absorb an impact with their skin.
Yep.
You can't. But grizzlies are so fierce, man. I do like it, but nah, I gotta go hippo. I gotta go hippo. Yeah.
Alex is still the only one that's standing strong on the grizzly bear thing. But yeah, like the 2 points that you brought up with the hippo or what have me with it. Between those things are fast. For how big they are, they're fast.
Their name literally means water horse. Like, so
I did not know that.
That should let you know out the gate they're coming for you.
Yep. I'm sticking with Team Hippo.
See,
but
I'm glad.
anyways, that's kind of like the end of this. But I'm so glad that you're here. Like, I'm really excited to see what you bring like to the team and everything, and like the fact that you do have a very different background like from the rest of the team. I think is going to offer a lot of opportunity for the rest of us to learn from you.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, of course. So thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah.
So go ahead and comment below on what got you interested in music and if it was a family or if it was a generational thing. And other than that, that's been another episode of the Sound Project. We'll see you next week.